What is my great idea? I know how to make George smile, said Theodore. Here's what we'll do. The other tugs turned to Theodore, and he began to explain his plan. After Theodore had explained his plan to the other tugs, he hurried over to the dispatcher's dock. Excuse me, Mr. Dispatcher, he whispered. I've been noticing that George has been very serious all Big Harbor Fool's Day. Yes, Theodore, replied the dispatcher. I've noticed that, too. Well, I've an idea, said Theodore, and then he moved closer to the dispatcher. Meanwhile, Hank and Emily were over with Shelburne, the sea barge. Shelburne was just finishing unloading his big tanks of bubble bath. The tugs whispered their plan to Shelburne.
Sure,
said Shelburne slowly.
Whatever you say.
Quiet as can be, Hank and Emily moved Shelburne over to where George was sleeping. Shelburne lifted a big bubble bath tank with his crane and slowly began to empty right down George's smokestack. This'll be the best Big Harbor Fool's joke ever, giggled Emily. The sun was almost beginning to go down when George woke up. He looked this way, and that way, and then the other way, too. But he didn't see any big bunny tails or giant spiders or hear anyone honking or laughing. Maybe, thought George, Big Harbor Fool's Day is finally over. Right away, George began to feel better. Slowly, very slowly, he turned toward the other tugs. Well, when George saw the other tugs, he felt even better. It looked like everyone else was already asleep. No more jokes, he thought. Phew, great. Hello there, George, said the dispatcher, turning to him. How was your day? Very silly, snorted George. And I bet tomorrow will be even sillier. Tomorrow? Said George. Yes, the dispatcher went on. Everyone had such a good time today that I decided that tomorrow we'll have another Big Harbor Fool's Day. Another Big Harbor Fool's Day, sputtered George. Oh, no. George started to blow up some more smoke. And that's when the most surprising thing happened. Instead of blowing up smoke, George began to blow bubbles. What's going on? Gulped George. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The other tugs turned to George. They were all wearing silly faces. Big Harbor Fools! They shouted. And then George noticed the empty tank of bubble bath beside the dispatcher. I'm blowing soap bubbles, said George. Does this mean tomorrow isn't Big Harbor Fool's Day again? George was so happy about it not being Big Harbor Fool's Day again that he just had to grin. You sure look funny with all those bubbles coming out of your smokestack, said Theodore. I guess I'm the biggest Big Harbor Fool of them all, said George. And you know, he had to admit that being a little bit silly felt a little bit good, especially being silly with all your friends.
I guess it's pretty hard to be too serious or important with big bubbles coming out of your smokestack. Well, I hope that's the end of the Big Harbor Fool's Day jokes for this year. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor. We'll see you all again next time. Oh, here's my hat. Oh, no. Now, this must be my friend Rodney. Bye for now. Rodney!
Theodore. There's another story coming right up, and you can always learn more about Theodore Tugboat on the internet. Find us through PBS Online.
Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Oda, Hank and George and the harbor master too.
here, and I'll go over in the middle like that.
Hello. I was just tidying up my desk, and I found these models. Oh, I carved them a long, long time ago. When I was a sailor on a ship. Oh, back then, I made models of everybody on board the ship. Oh, look, I forgot about this model. Oh, this fellow? Yes. He was on that ship, too. He always used to throw my hat overboard. He was a bully. He was a bully, and I didn't like him at all. You know, I almost wanted to leave the ship because of him. Not too long ago, there was a bully right here in the big harbor. Yeah. Oh, gave Theodore a pretty rough time of it, too. You know, I'll never forget that story. Theodore was floating on his way to work one day. Good morning, Owen, he called up to the giant oil rig. Theodore just loved saying good morning to everyone in the big harbor. It was a warm, wonderful feeling. A feeling like everyone on the whole ocean was his friend.
Oh, hi, Theodore, replied Owen in a very quiet voice. Owen is usually a very loud oil rig, but not today. And even from way down there, Theodore could tell that all was not right with Owen. Well, what's the matter, Owen? He said. Well, replied Owen, a new tug is coming to the harbor. A new tug? What's his name? Asked Theodore. Right away, he wanted to meet the new tug. His name is Oliver the Vast, said Owen quietly. He's an ocean tug. I don't really like him. No siree, Bob. I know Oliver. It was George. Oh, I met him out on the ocean once. What's he coming here for? To take me out on the ocean to work, replied Owen. Well, when George heard this, he frowned a great big frown. Well, I could take you, Owen, he said. I'm big enough. Is Oliver as big as you are, George? Asked Theodore. I could take Owen, repeated George, not answering Theodore's question. And anyway, Oliver isn't very friendly. So that's why Owen isn't happy about Oliver moving him, thought Theodore. I bet I'll be friends with Oliver, he announced. I'm friends with everyone. The next morning, the dispatcher gave Theodore a big job, moving Shelburne, the sea barge. Theodore felt big himself, moving the jumbo barge for the first time. Just then, Theodore saw a tugboat he'd never seen before, heading into the harbor. That must be Oliver, he said.
Must be,
said Shelburne slowly. Shelburne is a very slow sea barge. I bet he's a whole smokestack taller than George, gasped Theodore. And then something awful happened. Hey, get out of my way, shouted Oliver. The big tug rumbled right up and bumped Theodore away from Shelburne. That's what I do. Well, at first, Theodore didn't know which felt worse, the hurt or the surprise. Well, why'd you do that? I move big barges like this, snorted Oliver. The big tug took Theodore's special job away from him, right in front of Shelburne and Benjamin Bridge and the Ferry twins and everyone.